So cheesy. Hi, I'm Sam.
And I'm Kyle.
And this is our handmade home.
In Brooklyn, New York.
I'm a designer and, for lack of a better phrase, content creator.
Yeah.
And Kyle also works with me on Awesome.
Photographer, handyman.
Support system.
Support system. Yeah. I had a separate job, but she was like, oh, can you help me on the weekends? So I was like, sure. And then we sort of decided that we were a really good team.
We do a lot of DIY projects.
Did we do the floor first?
So our floor used to be a brown wood, and we put these vinyl planks on top of them that are really great for renters. They don't stick to the floor, they just stick to each other. So when we leave, we can just tear them all up. So here we are in our kitchen.
It's beautiful.
This is our lovely countertop change. It used to be kind of a black and orange color. We got a kit to paint the countertops, and it was actually really easy to use.
We sponged like minerals on it to get the desired marbling effect, and then you put a top coat on it to cure it.
We added these poles. These are just things we painted from IKEA.
Yeah.
They're just spray painted, and then we changed the knobs as well. So this backsplash is actually a peel and stick. I thought it was gonna be like a whole situation, like wallpapering, but it was literally just a big sticker that you put on. The living room was a little bit harder for us because it is part of the kitchen basically, and it's hard in this space to figure out where exactly a living room would go.
Trying to divide the spaces so that it flowed but still felt separate. All right, give me a countdown. We'll see if we can do this.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to our living room.
That's so cheesy.
I think you had your heart set on that couch the first time you saw it, and that was sort of like the centerpiece. She's like, oh, let's make everything else work around the couch. And then we got the couch, and it was a little bigger than I think we both expected.
Yeah, we always have the problem of you think that you know how big something is, even if you measure it out with a measuring tape, you think like, okay, I get how big this is, and it arrives, and it's like, all right, it's either smaller than you expected or larger than you expected. So this console table we had originally, it was just completely plain and on the ground.
Yeah.
We decided that it kind of needed a little bit more height, so we added legs to it, we drilled holes for knobs. So we took this thing that was very inexpensive and we added touches to it and
elevated it.
Made it look a little bit more elevated. The shelving in our corner by the windows was kind of all you.
Bringing it over the door and sort of having this whole wall display of everything that we like, and cool books and prints.
You also researched how to style a shelf a lot.
I did research how to style a shelf because I had no idea. I found out that you're supposed to put things in odd groups, so you've got like 3 things here, we've got 5 things here. It's not a hard rule, but it helps draw your eye, because what you do is you put like a group of objects here, and a group of objects here, and a group of objects here, and it makes a triangle, and then your eyes follow that triangle up and down and over and left and right. And it just sort of makes things very appealing.
So similar to what we did in the kitchen with the handles, we changed out all the doorknobs, so this did not come with the apartment.
No.
But we still kept the old ones. We can change those back. They're surprisingly way easier to change than you would think they are.
For the bedroom, we have like a tiki 60s, 70s vibe.
We definitely have a color palette in there that is a little bit different. So this was the first thing we made in the room, was this wall hanging. It was a labor of love, to say the least.
Definitely a true labor of love.
This is one of the things that has taken us longer than I think any other project, just because the tassels alone took a very long time, but it was kind of an almost all Kyle project.
I think it came out pretty well, considering I did it.
So we decided to have our whole like record player situation in here. Like you wake up, put on a record, start your day. So the neon sign, I guess, is the thing in here that has the most story behind it, because we didn't, when we got married, we eloped, so we didn't obviously have like a first dance. But we decided to have a first dance anyway, and we did it to Just Like Honey by Jesus and the Mary Chain, so here's our little homage to that.
Romance.
Yeah, romance.
Hi, I'm Christina Bing and welcome to my place. Come on in. When I walk in from a long day, I want to be greeted with things that I love, warmth, and lots of color. Bright colors just lift me up, especially when like the world is very dark sometimes, and so it's nice to come here and unwind and have beautiful things. I'm a part-time content creator, but I still have a 9-to-5, and I do think that lets people know that even if you have a 9-to-5, you can still create content out of your home and have it be like a fun side thing.
Describe your style.
Oof. Someone asked me recently, what can I Google or what can I search on Pinterest to like find this? And I was like, this is just stuff that I like. I don't even think there's like a style name for this. It's just a reflection of who me and my girlfriend are. Like, this is just a reflection of us. And that happens to be art, plants, rooted in neutrals with pops of color. I've just always loved color and art and film and music. And I feel like this home is like a reflection of all of those things. This is the living room. It is filled with lots of things that I've collected. It feels cozy, it feels homey, eclectic, and a mix of gorgeous things that I love. But it's like a little bit of everything, and I like that. This apartment just had white walls and nothing on the walls, nothing in the windows, just a bare, open, gorgeous space with lots of light. We didn't do any like painting. We wanted to make sure that the art spoke for itself and also took over for that. You'll see a theme in this home, and it is how important art is and how it is highlighted in every single room in the space. My gallery wall is my most favorite piece. Most of the people that did the art on this wall either I know or I'm a huge fan of. And then my girlfriend and I do punch needle, something we picked up during the pandemic. And so we decided to highlight them here. We love anything that is food. Also, this is real bread. It's a light, but they hollow out a real piece of bread and put lighting in it. And then Are You Okay is like, obviously no one was okay during that time, so you'll see a lot of these around the house. This rug from Cold Picnic, it's one of my favorite pieces. It makes the room feel very warm. Also, lighting is so important. We have a lot of mood lighting around our apartment as well, and I think that that also makes it feel cozy and warm. Neon lights. I was super inspired by Keith Haring. I love it so much. Nostalgia is really important to me. I like to remember a time where I didn't have bills and things like that, so that's why there's toys in here. They were inspired by like vintage McDonald's toys. It's a collaboration with an artist, but it just reminded me of being young, so I had to have that. Things that are vintage just give me that nostalgic feeling. You can really breathe life into a space with vintage pieces. Some of these vintage pieces, it's one of a kind, and continuing that into your home is such a special thing to have. Taking your time and hunting for those pieces is really important. And the environment, come on. It's nice to come home to a nice, calm space. Then you go into the dining room, and in here you'll see another gallery wall. I have a whole shelf of candles that are shaped like food. Some of them smell like the actual food, which is incredible, and some don't. When you walk into your home, you want to feel warmth and love and joy, and it also needs to smell and feel good. That's why I love these like candles and things that look like food, because you just want to like take a bite out of it. And I love those types of things in the house where you're like, should I eat this or should I just smell it? All of my favorite pieces are here. This dining table is a vintage table. It's from Italy. I could not pass this table up when I saw it. It's so beautiful. These are like a replica of the Sesca chair. When you're like designing on a budget, maybe you need to get the cheap replica version because that's what's in your budget. And yeah, I love wavy lines. I think also having mirrors in your space is important because it reflects the light so beautifully in different spaces. And then plants are a whole thing. Like, I'm trying to keep philodendrons and cacti in my house because they're the easiest to maintain. This one thrives off of neglect, which that's my favorite type of plant, so yeah. And now we enter the bedroom and another gallery wall awaits you. Again, this room is neutrals with big pops of color. It's filled with beautiful photography that my girlfriend took and my friend Kenzie. A lot of artists that I love and respect that happen to be women, and another Are You Okay artwork. This really adds a punch to the wall that I think otherwise would be kind of basic, so I love it. Instead of doing a traditional headboard, I also have, I would say like a modern version of what a headboard would be. We decided to hang some art above our bed, but this is really nice and neutral enough where I can do crazy bedding. I'm a huge fan of mixing patterns and prints and texture. The soft pink and lavender is just so calming and soft. I love it. We added this wall sconce, which adds like a very soft light. This overhead lighting can be a little harsh. And on the other side, we just have a tiny little yellow lamp that adds another pop of color. Yellow reminds me of the sun, and that always brings me warmth and good energy. We just wanted to make sure that everything was quiet and calm and very peaceful in here, filled with things that we love, obviously. And I love waking up to this gallery wall every morning. It brings me a lot of joy. Ties back into the nostalgia. And then to get to the bathroom and see this original tile, I was so blown away. I was like, oh my gosh, when I saw this place. But yeah, very special. When people come in and they're like, wow, the tile, everything, like it's in pretty good condition, considering my landlord's had it in his family forever. There is no art in here, but I think you can play up bath mat, shower curtain in place of art prints. I love pattern mixing, if you couldn't tell. The space is very bold, and I decided to add more bold elements on top of it. The striped towel and the little like waste bin down here is so cute. It also has like smiley faces all over it. I love a sheer shower curtain because it allows for the light to transform the space. We added this shower head from Spruce Home. Another simple, easy thing that you can do to transform a space is to just switch out the shower head. This bathroom also, because it is older, it does not have any storage. So sometimes you have to be creative and pick things that are also functional for the space. It's frozen in time, honestly, and that's a really beautiful feeling to have. And now we come to the art and therapy room. This room is for arts and crafts and therapy. It's nice to just have a space dedicated to healing, which I think art does. Also, all of our shoes are here. I need to hide them, but they're cute and I love them. Another gallery wall. More of the punch needle that we do. Little pizza, little banana, little hamburger. More food, surprise, surprise. And this is like, ugh, which is like, you know, my favorite thing ever. There's not like a wrong way to do punch needle, and I think that that's why I love it so much. Yeah, I love it. YouTube University. I love that you can watch a video and actually learn how to make anything and literally become an expert in it if you just keep at it. That's also very inspiring. I just think protecting your peace and energy is really important, and only bringing things in that feel good and letting go of all the things that are bad and not beneficial for you. You gotta release that stuff because your body really holds on to that stuff. A room for therapy, I'm telling you.
Do you love your apartment?
It's calm, peaceful, good energy. It also holds a lot of things that mean a lot to me, things from my girlfriend's side of the family and things that we've bought together. And I think it's just like a beautiful culmination of life lived over the last 7 to 10 years.
Well, hello, darling. I'm Christopher, aka Plant Queen, and this is my handmade home in Brooklyn, darling. Basically, Plant Queen is a journey where I express myself as a non-binary femme and explore the wonders of plant parenthood. So my profession, I'm an educator, so Plant Queen is about providing opportunities for folks to learn about the wonders and beauty that is indoor gardening. I got into plants with my grandmother. She was really into gardening, and it was a space for her to create moments of joy and healing. And so when I was younger, she would take me to some of her favorite nurseries in Philadelphia. And it was a magical experience, especially as like a little baby queen, you know, looking at this luscious, magical jungle of a nursery. And so she would let me pick some of the plants that she would take home. And whenever I was over her house, she would remind me to water them. And so at a very young age, my grandmother was nurturing the nurture in me. And so about 5 years ago, I went out and bought my very first plant. It's a Marble Queen pothos. She was struggling, and I made a promise to myself that if I could take care of this plant, then I had something on my hands. And so 5 years later, she's 9 feet long. I've propagated her multiple times, so she's all over the apartment. And she has over 200 sisters. I like to describe my apartment as maximalist when it comes to plants and minimalist when it comes to decor. So I like the decor to be like very spaced out. I love blank walls. I like blank spaces. People may find it weird, but it's I don't know. I think it's like a plant parent thing. But whenever I step into a space, I whip out my phone and I pull out the compass app. And I'm like, oh, what direction are the windows facing? And so that was like the first thing I did when I got in here. And I was like, south-facing windows? Not 1, but 5 south-facing windows? Oh yes. I was like, let's go. Deposit already in, application sent. Am I approved? Let's go. One of the first things that I did when I got the keys was that I came here, I cleaned the space, I cleansed the space, and I ordered food, and I sat on the floor, and I watched the sun move throughout the space. It was so peaceful, so calming. I had a little playlist playing. I was like in a very zen mood. And as the sun moved throughout the space throughout the day, I marked those particular spots. And I was like, oh, this would be good for this particular plant. The sun is here for this amount of time. And so that was like the very first thing that I did. I just wanted to get a better grasp of the environment that I was bringing my plants into. All right, darling, so we are currently in my little plant nook, and I have about 90 green girls in this particular space. And the very first thing that I did when I got this apartment was install the shelves. If you know anything about moving into spaces in Brooklyn, going vertical is the way to go because we just don't have a lot of floor space. So 9 times out of 10, giving your plant too much sunlight will cause sunburn. And so because I get direct light, I have sheer curtains on the curtain rod to kind of filter out some of that light so the plants aren't getting that harsh sun rays, but are getting filtered bright light. So that's always the way to go, especially if you have south-facing windows. And so, one of my prized possessions is Miss Monstera Deliciosa, this queen right here. She's a bit of a diva and she's taking up a lot of space, but she's absolutely beautiful. And I actually started this queen, it started with this one little leaf right here. So I bought this queen in downtown Manhattan in Chinatown, and she was sitting in a vase and they were rooting her in water. And I was like, let me see if I can get this queen to grow. And so I brought the queen home. She struggled for a bit. I didn't know if she was gonna make it. And I just allowed her roots to mature in the water. And about, I think it's been almost 4 years now, and she's grown into this amazing vine. So Miss Monstera Deliciosa is native to the tropical rainforest of Central America. And if you notice, she has these beautiful roots that are growing. And so these are aerial roots. And we have to remember that the green girls that we bring into our spaces are just small little miniature versions of their majestic selves in the wild. And so this queen is actually a vine, a very, very large vine. And you can kind of get that feel as you're looking at this particular queen. And so if she was in the wild, she would be growing up a surface, whether that's a tree trunk or a wall, and these roots would be anchored into that surface. She's not doing that right now because I don't have the space just yet, but I will be applying a moss pole to this queen sometime soon so that it mimics the natural environment and habitat that she would grow in the wild. I use that space as an opportunity to just lose myself in my little indoor jungle. And so sometimes when I'm having like a very stressful day or I just need to take a break from technology, we all need a break from technology at this point, I'll literally just go in there, no technology, close the door, and kind of just either engage in like some pruning, may identify some vines that I want to propagate. And so using mindful gardening as a opportunity to engage in meditation, right? Because meditation could look so many different ways. It doesn't have to be you just sitting there with your legs crossed. It could be like whatever you need to do in order to be fully present in your body. And gardening sometimes allows me to do that. Darling, sometimes our green girls need a little haircut, and that comes in the form of pruning. And so what you'll find is that yellowing leaves like these, or browning leaves, basically decaying leaves, are more likely to attract pests. And so the best thing to do to keep your green girl serving those lush looks is to give her a little trim. Okay, girl, so we are now in my little corner of my living room, and this is basically where I get a lot of my work done. This is my little makeshift office space. I have some random little instruments. I believe the saxophone is such a sexy and beautiful instrument. I do not know how to play it, but you know, I appreciate it from afar. You know, I put it on my playlist, little saxophone instrumental moment. We have some snake plants here. We have this snake plant, and then we also have this one over here. This snake plant is one of my favorite plants because they're so easy to care for. They're adaptable when it comes to different lighting situations, and they're wonderful air purifiers. And so always gotta have a little bit of the snake plant in the area. And so these are, you know, some of the green girls that keep me company when I'm working. And I tend to have a plant buddy of the day where I'll, you know, place that plant on my desk and kind of just use it as an opportunity to inspect the leaves and escape the screens. And so it's a little practice that I do to help me stay grounded and rooted. So I love my bathroom, and the reason that, you know, I was particularly drawn to this bathroom was because it had a window. So a south-facing bathroom window, yes God, everything. I enjoy when there's like a creative element to how the plant is existing. And so in my bathroom, I have a staghorn fern. And I have a complicated relationship with ferns, and I feel like a lot of plant parents do. People say that they're picky. I don't think they're picky. I think they just know what they enjoy. And they're like, girl, if you're not giving it to me, I'm not gonna thrive, right? And so, you know, ferns really enjoy moisture, humidity. If you give them too much sun, their leaves will burn. So they're delicate queens, but if you give them what they need, they grow so beautifully. And so the staghorn fern is a much hardier fern, more resilient. And so I have a staghorn fern in my bathroom that's growing out of a coconut shell. And I have had that plant for about 4 years now. And she's had her ups and downs, but I think I found like the perfect spot for her in the bathroom where she gets filtered bright light and she gets a lot of humidity and moisture. And so she's just been thriving. I also have a staghorn fern in my bedroom that's mounted on wood. And so it's literally like a piece of living art, which I'm just like, yes, if I can incorporate that into my space, lovely. All plants are works of art. She's gorgeous, she's sturdy, she's resilient, and one of my favorite green girls in my bedroom. Well, honey, welcome to the bedroom. This was one of the last spaces that I greened up, and I wanted to do so intentionally and really piece it together and not rush the process. And so some of my favorite aspects of the bedroom has to be this green girl right here. She is the Monstera albo variegata. She has these beautiful little white variegation on her leaf, and she's a hot ticket right now because she grows very slowly. And that has to do partly because of her anatomy and that some of her leaves lack chlorophyll. So she's just a little slower when it comes to growing, which also means that growers in nurseries have to wait some time for them to grow and mature. So she's a hot ticket. I actually got her for $50 back in the day, about maybe 3-4 years ago. You could not find her for that price, but she's mine. I love her and she's adorable. I really enjoy gold trimmings. I don't know why, but I really do. And so I have these cute little gold shelves. I have the books on the floor and I have the plants on the shelves. This shelf right here actually was a mistake. As I was putting the shelves on the wall, the second one slid down to like this slanted position. And I was like, oh, this actually looks pretty cute and different. And so I kind of kept it that way. And then on the other side of my bedroom, I have a little collection of cacti. When I first began my journey, I stayed away from cacti. I was like, oh, they're rough, I don't know if I want to get into them. And then the more and more I studied cacti, I realized how delicate, intricate, and really beautiful they are. And so these are a variety of different cacti. You have the spiral cactus right there. You have the prickly pear cactus right here. And these queens are, green girls that are really resilient and actually don't really need a lot of care. They just need a good amount of sunlight, and that you make sure you check the moisture of their soil because you want to make sure that they dry out completely. I think of my plants as like my girlfriend. They are beings that allow an opportunity for introspection, for self-care, for reflection. And I think it's always good to have a good group of girlfriends to remind you to care for yourself. And I feel like that's what my plants really do for me. And so, when I'm watering my plants, I'm like, am I drinking enough water? If I'm like figuring out, are they getting enough sunlight? Did I let sunlight touch my body today, right? And then when I'm like, making sure they have the nutrients that they need to grow, I'm like, well, did I give myself, my body, being and soul, the nutrients I need to continue to spread my roots? So my green girls, are a constant reminder of the various different ways that I need to constantly engage in caring for myself.
I'm very detail obsessed. I love accessories. I love the small bits and bobs, and I think the devil's in the detail, and that is both true in my home and also in my work. Hi, I'm Eric Kenneth Stolberg, and this is my handmade home in Los Angeles, California. I'm an interior prop stylist, which basically is like a set designer, but on a much smaller scale for interior projects. What made me want to move into this apartment in particular was the fact that it was untouched. It kind of felt like this time capsule, and all of the original details had been preserved, like the crown molding, the original tile, the French windows in all the spaces. It has so much character and so much, history that I immediately fell in love with it. And besides, the price was right, so I couldn't say no. So one of the great things of this apartment is there's this entryway that is like half indoor, half outdoor, but has this amazing skylight. And so it was completely underutilized, and I started to fill it with plants and more plants and more plants. And eventually I kind of have this wonderful atrium, which is so nice with all of the Spanish tile and the wrought iron, and I've added some kind of Spanish elements like this tile and this planter that add to, the old world charm of this building that I just immediately fell in love with. And I think it's a good, precursor to the apartment, coming up these old terracotta tiled stairs and having all of these old plant stands. Everything's wrought iron and has a good Spanish feel to it. I think it's a good little appetizer. Come on in, welcome to my living room, which is typically the most used room in my house. It gets the best light, so I will say plants are pretty successful around here. But what I love about this room is this lime green, key lime custard color. It's almost like a jade. And it has brought all of the hues that are in this space forward. It's very saturated, and then you have all these rich woods, and I just think there's really good balance. My living room is the room I definitely spend the most time in, and I think it's because there is these amazing bookcases in it that are just filled with so many memories, and it kind of feels like this library of my life. And I think being in this room so often really is enriching. Definitely has more of an older character than some of the other rooms, and I'm loving that distinguishing difference between some of the spaces. Yeah, it's definitely the room I entertain the most in as well. This is typically meant to be a coat closet, but when I moved in, it is so big that I knew it had a bigger purpose. So this is actually where I keep all of my accessories. It is filled from the floor to the ceiling with nothing but accessories. I have, a vintage purse rack. I have all my shoes. I hung this big cable with all of my silk scarves. I brought in this dresser, which actually was in my mother's nursery as a child. And the drawers had been all dinged up, and so this part was good. The surface, I just wanted to kind of give the drawer fronts a refresh. So I painted them in a pattern similar to the three-legged chair just outside it. So there's a little connection there. And each drawer has a different accessory. Earrings, bracelets, belts, purses, sunglasses. So this is kind of like Grand Central Station of fashion in my home. I think like taking what I saw, the couple that lived here before had like their bicycles in it. It was just like such wasted space. And I completely, retrofitted it for my needs. And I think that's like the best DIY that has been the most successful. Most important room in the house. Here's all the jewels. This is like, I guess, my version of a hallway, even though it's not much of a hall, it's like its own little room. And I think most people would probably do absolutely nothing to this room. And of course, I have fully committed myself to decorating this place. I recently just painted it this like dusty lilac, and I had my friend Issa paint these trompe-l'oeil style ribbons with bows at the top, all in different hues. It has added so much whimsy to this space, and it just makes me smile so much, which is great to have it in the center of the house. Kind of leads you into each space, which I think is a good transition. This is my tiny little original tiled, original pedestal sink bathroom that, isn't much, but when I moved in here, the walls were painted like a chocolate brown, which when you have like this kind of canary yellow tile is so bizarre. This is probably the second room I painted, and it was kind of a no-brainer because you can see there's all these original fixtures. The towel bar, the soap holder, there's like a little toothbrush holder. All of those things had this really good teal, like this like bright, almost like an ocean teal. And so I painted the walls that to bring all of those elements forward. And it worked like such a dream. And yeah, I always try to make sure there's plants and life in there because you don't want things to be too sterile, especially in a bathroom or a kitchen. There's some ugly pipes and wiring down underneath the pedestal sink. So all I did was bring in some plants down at the bottom, and it definitely looks a lot more homey. And now I take you into the pink parlor, which is, a dining room, essentially. It's, very prissy pink, and it's where I do the majority of my hosting. I love to set a table, so that's always a good opportunity for me to really impress. And it kind of feels like the most glamorous room out of all of my apartment. I think it definitely has the most jewelry in it. There's tons of brass, tons of bright colored glass, the pink elements, and I think that always is crowd pleasing for anyone I have over. Let's go into the kitchen. I would definitely say the kitchen is my least favorite room, mainly because I hate to cook. But I will say I have done enough cosmetic opportunities in there that have made it not a terrible place to be, and I think most people find it charming. I definitely leaned into the kitsch vibe with the 1930s Wedgwood stove that's original with the apartment. Something I love is the original tile. Like in the bathroom, we have this really nice canary yellow, but then there's all these green accents, and I didn't love the forest green with the yellow. It actually is my high school colors. Go Mustangs. And I was just trying to like break that up a little, so I am confusing the eye by bringing in other shades of green throughout, and I think that kind of helps make it more of an ensemble piece. Welcome to my bedroom, which is probably my favorite room in the house. It recently got a refresh, and I just think it really speaks to my personality, because even though, you know, it's a pretty neutral bedroom, you know, if you look at it, the foundation of the room is white, the bedding, the walls, the furniture, and then I brought in all of these like really saturated colors in the accessories. As you can see, the pillows are like an array. I have this vintage quilt on the foot of my bed that was my friend's grandmother's. That just brings in such a good hue. Yeah, and I just think it adds so much personality while still being calm and not crazy or antique. And it feels a lot more contemporary than a lot of my other rooms, which I obviously love the old stuff, but there's something about these lines that make it feel a little more modern that I'm really enjoying. So it is really peaceful, and I think it's like my little solace in a world that is layered and abundant and vibrant. Now probably my favorite part of this space, and rightfully so, it's what I, you know, go to bed at night and wake up to every morning, is this collage wall, which is kind of like a gallery wall, but I have layered art on top of other pieces. And it looks trickier than it is. I basically just found the longest nails I could find, which are like that big. And, you know, we kind of had to artfully do it, but I love how it just feels super layered and collected. And kind of the through line of all these pieces is both black and white photography and objects. I like bringing in, you know, some 3D images or 3D items into this, because I think that again adds to that like 2D, 3D that we're playing with. One thing that every home needs is soul. I want to walk into a place and know exactly who lives there just based on how it's furnished. That says so much about a person, and if you're not bringing in elements of yourself or that mean something to you, it doesn't matter if it looks nice. It'll look stale and stiff, and I think soul is really the most important thing someone can have in their home, because only you can create it for yourself. And it's so powerful to have a space that reflects who you are. It's really energizing and rejuvenating, and I absolutely would recommend, you know, digging into the soul of your space.
Hi, I'm Summer Rain, and this is my handmade home in Brooklyn, New York. My name is Summer Rain Oaks, and I live with my pet chicken, Kippy. And I am the creator of Homestead Brooklyn, which is a blog and a YouTube series to really connect people back to nature, particularly people living in the city. I think I have a little over 750 plants. The last time I checked, and I have to like update my spreadsheet because I'm nerdy like that, it's probably a little over 400 different species or cultivars or varieties of plants. And this has been kind of like years in the making. I've lived here actually for 14 years, so the space was pretty barren when I moved in, and I think now it really, really feels like a home to me. One of the first things that I wanted to do to kind of warm up the space, I ended up getting a Ficus lyrata, which is a fiddle leaf fig. It was about, maybe 3 or 4 feet tall when I brought it in, and it just completely transformed the space. Kippy, oh, you're so tall. You're so tall. You want to get down? Okay. Soft landing on the cushions. This is my first plant. This is my fiddle leaf fig. I actually cut it back by about 2/3. I've had it for probably now my 10th year, going into my 10th year, so it is a beast, and it holds a special place in my heart because it's the first plant that I got. And that's part of the thing that I like about this place, is that the plants have really made this their home as much as I have. So it's nice to be able to find these little pockets for these particular plants. This is more of a cacti and succulent corner. So the bedroom actually used to be my office space. My goal for that space had always been to create a vertical garden on that wall. Kippy, do you want to be in this? Want to come up here? Oh. Hold on. She's gonna poop. It goes straight into the compost, if you're wondering. Good girl. All right, sorry about that. It's like having a incorrigible child. Living with a chicken is full on. It just is. It is what it is. It just adds to the weirdness, but that's good. You just gotta own it sometimes. So this is my sub-irrigated green wall. Basically, these are glorified gutters sitting on rafts in felted pockets. And the sub-irrigation system means that the water comes from below. And so how that actually works is that there is a tube up here that cuts through to the back of my house into the sink, and I could turn it on from there. And then the water comes through the pipes and feeds it on the bottom. And then once that one fills up on the top, it then fills to the 2nd row, 3rd row, 4th row, and 5th row. This is reinforced. Whenever anybody wants to think about building a green wall in their house, they have to consider the amount of weight that's going on the wall. So this actually used to be my closet. It just seemed like a waste of light because all that window light was coming in, and I would try to block it away from my clothes, and so that it wouldn't bleach my clothes. And I was like, this is stupid. I should just move my clothes out of here and just turn this into a garden. It may seem a little taxing to have to water all these, but what's great about it is I have these things on humidity mats. So these are mats that kind of you water, and then the water comes up through the bottom of the terracotta pot because terracotta is porous. My favorite DIY project that I ever did was my first DIY project that I did with my dad, which is the mason jar garden that's in the kitchen. I really love that one in particular because it is my first father-daughter DIY project. My dad is so fun to do DIYs with, and it was a totally upcycled project. It was just found wood, mason jars, and then I think the only thing we bought were Tapcon screws and hose clamps. So this is my kitchen space, and there is a lot of handmade elements within this kitchen. Even this countertop was just made basically for this space. This has a hole cut out in it because I could throw my composting here when I chop up vegetables and take out the compost, put it in the freezer, and take it to the green market. This was my old stove. So instead of tossing it, basically turned it into a sub-irrigated planter. If you look up here, this is a flexible flyer turned into a plant shelf, but also a place where you can hold your pots and pans and your cups. And if you look over here, this is a swingable shelf, vertical garden. This is actually inspired by this broom handle. So this broom handle was sitting in the corner of this area forever since I moved in here. I wanted to create a green wall, but I still wanted to see the space of the exposed brick. These are all upcycled boards, hand cut holes, just some rope and some zip ties, and the broomstick. Being able to actually try to grow plants that typically wouldn't be considered a quote-unquote house plant, even though that's a totally human construct, is very interesting to me. And sometimes I fail, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes I try again. It's a lot of trial and error and experimentation. I get a lot of people who come in, they're a little bit slack-jawed. You can see they're just oh my God, look at all these plants. But a lot of times people say, this really reminds me of my grandmother's house. There's some element that feels like someone is coming home. I do think that the plant shop by my house like gets a lot of business afterwards because I think if people like get inspired and they're like, okay, I'm gonna go get a plant right now.